Okay, here we are. The big one. The final hurdle before you hit the jackpot. When it comes down to it, what's really running the show in our world? What's got the ultimate power?
I think it's obvious there is nothing more powerful than a nuclear weapon. You can destroy the whole entire world with this thing.
Most people will agree with you. But what if I told you that it is in your wallet?
Hold on. How can you possibly compare something like $1 to a nuclear weapon? How can money be stronger than something that can obliterate cities in seconds?
It's a matter of perspective. A nuclear weapon, indeed, has the power to destroy physically and instantly. However, the dollar, or more broadly economic power, can control nations, change governments, influence global policies, and shape the world order without firing a single shot.
Today you will know where the dollar came from and how the US economy nearly collapsed. Why the US once held most of the world's gold, and why you can no longer swap it for money. When the dollar become a dominant global currency, and is there any chance of its dominance being challenged?
As you remember, the first colonists on the American continent were the Spanish. Therefore, the silver pesos, which were called dollars in Spain, became the most common coins in trade between the Spanish Empire and Latin America.
So the dollar has Spanish roots? I always thought it was purely American.
A common misconception. The abundance of silver mines in South America allowed Spain to mint more coins than any other country at the time. This led to the full-weighted dollar becoming the standard currency not only in Spanish territories, but across all colonies on the continent.
And this currency was adopted by the USA?
Exactly. By the time the USA declared independence from Great Britain, the silver dollar was already in widespread use. The Founding Fathers, ever pragmatic, officially adopted the dollar as the country's currency. But then, America's economy started booming like crazy. And suddenly, there just weren't enough silver and gold coins to go around.
So how did they solve this issue? Was it a moment when they hop on paper money?
Right you are. With the economy expanding like wildfire, states got creative and started pumping out paper dollars to keep up. And get this, it was like a banking explosion. Each state was popping up with its own banks, each printing its own version of the dollar.
Wow, that wasn't very smart. Sounds like a recipe for chaos.
And chaotic it was. By the mid-19th century, banks were printing money at such a rate that by the end of the Civil War, only a third of dollars had any gold or silver backing. This unchecked printing weakened the dollar and led to financial instability.
I don't even know what could they do to fix this mess.
The solution came in 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve System, America's central bank, just in time for World War I. While Europe was busy printing money like there was no tomorrow to pay for the war, messing up their currency values, the USA played it smart. They lent cash to England and France, cutting down their own debts and sneakily setting the stage for the dollar to take over the world.
So, America's financial strategy during the war set the stage for the dollar's rise.
Precisely. The USA's cautious approach to entering the war, combined with its financial support to allies, positioned it as a creditor nation. By the end of World War I, not only did the USA come out on top in the fight, but it also became a financial powerhouse. We're talking about lending out a whopping $10 billion, with $7 billion of that just for American-made weapons.
Wow, so the US played it smart and cool, like a chess master waiting for the right move.
Indeed, and it didn't stop there. The economic landscape shifted dramatically. By the time the 1920s rolled in, the USA was sitting on a gold mine, literally, with half the world's gold stashed under its belt. Innovations like electricity, cars, radio, and cinema sparked a major economic boom. But oh boy, did things get too hot to handle, setting the stage for the big crash known as the Great Depression.
So, the Great Depression was a setback? How did the US recover from that?
Another war. The sequel to World War I, World War II. It was like the universe gave the USA another shot to show off its wallet power. While Europe was burning in the fire of a war, the US, through the Lend-Lease program, started supporting its allies by lending weapons, food, and money. And guess what? This debts will settle decades later. Great Britain only finished paying off its debt in 2006.
War is horrible, but it did help USA to build its financial power. So what happened next?
Oh, things got interesting. The USA's stash of gold got even bigger because they were holding on to gold from other countries too. By the time the war wrapped up, they had their hands on 3/4 of the world's gold reserves. This massive treasure pile set the stage for the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944. That's where the big idea was pitched to the whole world. How about we all start using the dollar for international dealings? Since gold was too heavy to carry across the ocean, and US promised a free exchange of dollars for gold. It indeed seemed convenient. The conference participants thought and agreed.
Wait, I like that idea, but I don't think I can exchange my dollars for gold anymore. How did that happen?
What happened next was that after the end of World War II, the European economy began to recover and gradually enrich itself. Meanwhile, gold prices on the open market started to shoot up, making the idea of swapping dollars for gold at the US government's fixed rate a pretty sweet deal. The first to break was Charles de Gaulle. In 1965, the President of France sent a ship to the States, which brought 750 million cash dollars, and then a second similar ship. The US was not thrilled, but ended up playing ball. And just like that, Fort Knox found itself 1,650 tons of gold lighter. In 1971, President Nixon basically said, "That's it. We're done here," and declared the dollar wouldn't be linked to gold anymore. If you hadn't caught on by then, tough luck. Turns out that all these years' dollars were printed in such volumes that they had long ceased to correspond to the US gold reserve. Fast forward 5 years, and at a meetup in Jamaica, all the countries agreed that from now on, currency values would be like any other market price, all about supply and demand. And gold, well, it got demoted to just another item you can buy and stopped being a way to pay for stuff.
So after Nixon pulled his sneaky move, how did the world still end up sticking with the dollar as the go-to currency?
Despite the detachment from gold, the dollar remained the heart of international trade, a status unchallenged to this day. For years, the dollar was the big shot in every global transaction. It got so wrapped up in the world's money matters that whenever the States sneezed, the rest of the world caught a cold. Once the US got the thumbs up to go wild, they cranked their money-making machine up to the max. Back in 2005, $6.5 trillion were floating around the American economy. Fast forward to now, and that number has ballooned to over 21 trillion. That's a whopping 300% jump. But here's the kicker. Guess how much American production went up in that time? Just 170%.
Isn't that dangerous, printing so much money?
It's a tightrope walk, indeed. Many fear the dollar's dominance is like a financial pyramid, but replacing a world reserve currency isn't as simple as it sounds. So, it's not exactly a shocker that for the past 20 years, half of the world's trade has been happening with dollars. The US has doubled its debt in just 15 years, yet everyone still sees buying it as a no-brainer, super safe investment.
It's like choosing between lending money to a buddy who's always broke versus one who's loaded. You know who you're going to pick, right?
And even though the US buys more from the world than it sells, it still manages to settle the tab with everyone's favorite currency, the mighty dollar.